There comes a moment when the soul finally understands that nothing endured was wasted. The quiet endurance, the unseen tears, the lonely perseverance, and the steady faith carried through confusion were all shaping something far greater than comfort alone. This message speaks to the heart that stayed when it would have been easier to leave, that trusted when answers were absent, and that remained faithful without applause. God's voice here is not loud or rushed. It is tender, intentional, and deeply personal. This is not a message meant for everyone, but for those whose spirits recognize truth when it is spoken. What unfolds is not praise without purpose, but recognition with responsibility. You are standing at the edge of elevation, not because of perfection, but because of faithfulness, refined in silence. Drawn into divine nearness. This opening section sets the stage by inviting the listener into a deep, intimate relationship with God. The language is gentle and calming, emphasizing rest, safety, and presence. It reassures the listener that every season of their life, including moments of silent struggle and private sorrow, has been seen and acknowledged. There is a profound affirmation here that they have never been abandoned, even in times when life felt isolating or their efforts seemed unnoticed. God honors the strength required to endure challenges quietly and celebrates the integrity that remained intact throughout difficult circumstances. The message conveys that this closeness is not casual or purely comforting. It carries intention and purpose. Being drawn near at this moment signifies that the soul is being prepared to understand its next stage, a season of growth and elevation. This divine nearness provides a safe space for truth to enter, creating emotional and spiritual calm that allows the heart to receive guidance fully. It also reinforces the idea that God's presence is active, protective, and deeply personal, not just symbolic or abstract. Importantly, the message frames intimacy as preparatory for transformation. When the heart is anchored in God's presence, it becomes ready for clarity, direction, and meaningful change. In essence, this section emphasizes that the act of being invited near is itself a mark of trust, signaling that the listener is recognized, valued, and positioned for an unfolding purpose in alignment with God's plan. It is both a reassurance and a call to pause, reflect, and attune to what is coming. Standing at the threshold of elevation, this section brings a sense of anticipation and readiness. God communicates that the listener is at a pivotal point in their life, a threshold where unseen preparation is about to yield visible growth. The text emphasizes that this elevation is not accidental or tied to external accolades, but carefully orchestrated as recognition of persistence and faithfulness. Nights of sorrow, prayers that seemed unanswered, and decisions made in uncertainty are acknowledged as the groundwork for the present moment. The focus is on endurance rather than outward achievement, highlighting the value of perseverance in shaping character and readiness. The threshold symbolizes a transition from private preparation to visible alignment with God's purpose. It is a moment that calls for both humility and awareness, reminding the listener that progress often occurs quietly before it is recognized publicly. Elevation is framed as a responsibility and an opportunity, not merely a reward or status. This section reassures the listener that the growth occurring beneath the surface has not gone unnoticed, and that the unseen development is just as meaningful as outward success. There is a spiritual layering here. The threshold represents timing, refinement, and the careful unfolding of purpose. It also invites the listener to embrace gratitude and readiness, trusting that what has been cultivated internally will now translate into visible influence and spiritual fulfillment. The overall tone encourages reflection on personal perseverance, patience, and readiness to step into a divinely orchestrated season of advancement. A message meant for the willing. In this part, God clarifies that the message will resonate differently for different hearts. Not everyone will feel drawn or remain attentive, and that selectivity is intentional. This is not exclusion, but an alignment test. Those who remain connected are spiritually receptive and prepared to receive deeper understanding. The text encourages listening with the whole being, not just the intellect, reinforcing the relational nature of spiritual truth. God invites the listener to trust their inner confirmation, emphasizing that personal resonance is a reliable indicator of readiness. It's a gentle reminder that spiritual growth is relational and participatory. It requires openness and willingness rather than mere exposure to knowledge. The selective nature of the message also teaches discernment. The depth of attention reveals the soul's preparedness. For those who stay engaged, God promises clarity, guidance, and understanding of their authentic self in alignment with divine will. The tone humanizes this concept by framing spiritual receptivity as a matter of heart readiness, creating space for patience, reflection, and attentiveness. It reassures the listener that not being distracted by external validation or fleeting interest allows one to fully receive the insights and transformative potential offered in this sacred encounter. This section also emphasizes that readiness is a posture of the heart, not a set of accomplishments or knowledge, reminding the listener that spiritual alignment flows from intentional receptivity and willingness to be guided. Faithfulness. When answers were absent. Here, God honors the loyalty and obedience displayed in seasons of uncertainty. The listener's commitment during times without clear guidance, visible confirmation, or immediate reward is highlighted as extraordinary. Faithfulness is depicted as enduring, even when outcomes were unseen or misunderstood by others, driven by quiet inner knowing rather than public approval. Tears shed in private, whispered doubts, and near moments of surrender are acknowledged as refining experiences rather than failures. God affirms that perseverance through these invisible trials cultivated resilience, maturity, and spiritual trust, forming a foundation that will support future elevation. The text humanizes this by emphasizing that such dedication is often unseen by the world, making it easy to feel unrecognized or alone. Yet these unseen efforts are deeply valued in the spiritual realm, and the listener's integrity is recognized as a profound contribution to divine purpose. This section portrays faithfulness not as a superficial display, but as a commitment that requires courage, patience, and reliance on God's presence alone. The narrative affirms that quiet devotion, practiced without external acknowledgement, holds transformative power, shaping character, and preparing the listener for greater responsibility and influence. The enduring theme is that spiritual maturity is often forged in solitude and secrecy, where true loyalty and devotion are tested and proven. Choosing presence over understanding. This portion emphasizes a profound spiritual principle, prioritizing God's presence over the need for immediate comprehension. The listener's faith is honored for choosing to remain connected and trust the process, even without seeing detailed plans or guaranteed outcomes. It frames trust as relational rather than transactional, valuing intimacy with God over control of circumstances. This choice, made repeatedly, shaped the listener's character, building steadiness, discernment, and spiritual depth. The text humanizes the principle by acknowledging the struggle inherent in trusting without full understanding, highlighting that this act requires courage, humility, and surrender. Remaining present fosters reliance on divine presence rather than outcomes, teaching the heart to anchor in stability and consistency. It reframes uncertainty as sacred space, a place where genuine faith is cultivated and refined. By focusing on presence, the listener develops endurance, patience, and spiritual insight, which prepares them for future responsibility and influence. The section gently reassures that faith does not demand answers or visible progress, only awareness and engagement with God. It emphasizes that growth often occurs in the background, and that choosing divine presence cultivates readiness for the next season of visible advancement. Sacrifice without applause. This section focuses on the unseen sacrifices the listener made in obedience to God's calling. It acknowledges the choices to let go of comforts, opportunities, or relationships that seemed desirable, but were not aligned with divine purpose. These sacrifices were often unnoticed by others, leaving the listener to endure both internal struggle and external misunderstanding. God affirms that every act of surrender was meaningful, emphasizing that faithfulness is measured by alignment with divine will, not by recognition or applause. The text humanizes this experience by addressing the emotional weight of these choices, the loneliness, the longing, and the occasional doubt that accompany unseen obedience. It emphasizes that yielding what appears good to make space for what is truly right is a courageous act, requiring discernment, humility, and trust. The sacrifices were not losses but investments, preparing the listener for the next season of growth and blessings. This section reassures that the unseen efforts were never wasted. The spiritual realm records every act of devotion, and the resulting elevation is rooted in these quiet commitments. The tone conveys validation, compassion, and encouragement, highlighting that the listener's consistent, faithful choices are now the foundation upon which divine favor and visible success will be built. By reframing sacrifice as preparation rather than deprivation, the message inspires hope and confidence, reinforcing that enduring obedience leads to spiritual and material abundance. What was built in stillness? Here, God emphasizes that elevation and new opportunities emerge from quiet, consistent faithfulness rather than sudden or flashy efforts. The listener is reminded that growth often occurs behind the scenes, invisible to the world but deeply meaningful in the spiritual realm. The text humanizes this by acknowledging the patience, restraint, and humility required to maintain faith without immediate results. God reassures that the waiting period was not wasted. It was active preparation, refining character, and strengthening inner resolve. By trusting timing rather than forcing outcomes, the listener cultivated a foundation capable of sustaining long-term influence and blessings. The unfolding season is described as a release of what was intentionally held back until maturity was achieved, underscoring that divine timing is deliberate and perfect. This section also addresses the temptation to rush, manipulate, or seek recognition prematurely, praising the listener for resisting these impulses. Human experience is honored here. The struggles, doubts, and longing for progress are real, yet they were part of the shaping process. The message reframes waiting as a sacred, productive space, transforming perceived delays into meaningful preparation. Ultimately, the section conveys reassurance, highlighting that patience, consistency, and quiet diligence produce lasting, visible results. What was nurtured in silence is now ready to emerge with clarity, purpose, and impact. showing that faithful endurance is a precursor to divine revelation and blessing. Trust forged in silence. This section delves into the profound depth of faith that develops in seasons when God seems distant or silent. The listener is recognized for enduring uncertainty without visible reassurance, continuing in devotion despite unanswered questions or delayed responses. God affirms that silence was not a sign of absence, but a refining process, strengthening resilience, spiritual maturity, and inner reliance. Trust forged in these quiet times is portrayed as stronger than belief formed through obvious miracles or visible results, as it is built on consistency, patience, and relational awareness rather than external proof. Human experience is validated here. The moments of doubt, longing, and questioning are acknowledged as real struggles that required courage to navigate. The listener's ability to remain steadfast without external confirmation demonstrates loyalty, humility, and profound spiritual discipline. The message reassures that this type of trust establishes a foundation capable of supporting greater responsibilities, public influence, and visible success without compromising integrity. The section emphasizes that the capacity to endure in silence ensures the listener can embrace visibility and opportunity without pride, fear, or dependence on external affirmation. In essence, these quiet, faith-filled seasons cultivate depth, stability, and readiness for the blessings and challenges of the next chapter, illustrating that true spiritual strength is nurtured in the unseen and unacknowledged moments of life. Faith that endured comparison. In this portion, God addresses the difficulty of watching others receive blessings while the listener's own desires felt delayed or unfulfilled. The section validates the internal conflict that arises in comparison, disappointment, longing, or subtle feelings of envy, but highlights the listener's ability to remain faithful, rejoice for others, and continue pursuing divine alignment without bitterness. This endurance reflects maturity, grace, and emotional resilience. Humanized attention is given to the struggle. Celebrating others when personal hopes are unmet is not easy, yet the listener's heart remained anchored in God rather than in the fluctuating fortunes of peers. God affirms that this patient faith strengthens character and prepares the listener to receive blessings without pride, entitlement, or resentment. The text teaches that spiritual growth often involves relational tension, where one must navigate emotions honestly while staying grounded in trust. This form of enduring faith is distinct from reactive devotion. It demonstrates rootedness, discipline, and stability. By remaining steadfast, the listener proves readiness for greater influence, abundant provision, and expanded opportunities. The section encourages reflection on the value of inner integrity over outward recognition, and reassures that steadfast devotion in the face of comparison produces resilience, wisdom, and readiness for divine favor. This maturity allows the heart to engage with future success while remaining humble and aligned with God's purpose. Integrity over approval. This section celebrates the listener's decision to uphold personal integrity despite societal pressures to compromise. God honors the courage required to maintain values and boundaries in a culture that often rewards conformity. Humanizing the experience, the text acknowledges the difficulty of resisting temptation, criticism, or the allure of social acceptance. Integrity is shown to be both protective and empowering, safeguarding the listener's character, discernment, and spiritual sensitivity. By remaining steadfast, the listener ensured that future opportunities, influence, and blessings would not corrupt their purpose or calling. God frames integrity as preparation for leadership and meaningful impact. Those who prioritize truth and authenticity over convenience are positioned to guide others effectively and honorably. The text reassures that the decision to remain distinct was neither isolating nor wasted. It was a necessary cultivation of spiritual clarity and readiness. Human experience is acknowledged. The struggle to hold firm in a world that often prizes compromise is real and taxing, but these challenges serve to refine and elevate the listener. Ultimately, integrity is presented as the foundation upon which enduring success and divine favor are built, affirming that the listener's commitment to authentic living now opens doors that fleeting approval could never provide. Quiet strength. Recognized. In this section, God draws attention to the hidden strength the listener has demonstrated throughout life. This is the strength exercised not for recognition, fame, or outward validation, but in the private, quiet moments when choices mattered most. Every act of self-control, every refusal to pursue what is convenient over what is right, is affirmed. Human experience is honored. The listener may have wondered if these small, unseen decisions mattered, if the sacrifices or restraint were unnoticed. God reassures that unseen victories carry immense spiritual weight, often more than public triumphs. By remaining faithful in private, the listener preserved integrity, discernment, and spiritual stability, creating a foundation for future influence. This quiet strength also signifies loyalty to God, to personal truth, and to a higher purpose. It demonstrates the ability to withstand temptation, pressure, or societal expectations without compromising values. The section emphasizes that true power is not measured by applause or visible success, but by internal alignment, perseverance, and devotion. The listener's disciplined character is now ready for new responsibility and opportunity, equipped to handle visibility and impact without losing humility or dependence on God. Humanized, the message connects directly with the listener's inner reflections, reassuring them that every restrained action and thoughtful choice contributed to spiritual preparation. The strength cultivated in silence is now recognized and poised to be revealed outwardly, proving that hidden faithfulness is foundational to divine favor and sustainable influence. Compassion, given from emptiness. This portion celebrates the listener's acts of compassion during seasons of personal depletion. God honors those moments when the listener gave support, encouragement, or love, even when feeling drained, overwhelmed, or lacking resources. Human experience is vividly acknowledged. The exhaustion, emotional weight, and sometimes unrecognized labor that accompanied generosity. The text emphasizes that these acts were not performed to gain approval, but were genuine expressions of alignment with God's nature. God affirms that the strength behind these efforts came from divine empowerment, not human stamina alone. By giving from emptiness, the listener demonstrated a deep internal connection to spiritual truth and an authentic reflection of God's character. These quiet expressions of love, support, and generosity have long-term significance. They sowed seeds of spiritual growth and relational influence, creating fertile ground for future blessings. Humanized attention is given to the emotional and spiritual labor of these acts. How tiring it could have been to care for others while waiting for personal replenishment. God reassures that these sacrifices were treasured, and that the listener's dedication to love in difficult circumstances will now return in fullness. This section encourages the listener to recognize that their inner generosity, faithfulness, and alignment with divine compassion are being honored. The invisible work done in humility and love is preparing the way for abundant provision, influence, and spiritual fulfillment. The shift toward receiving. Here, the message transitions to a season of tangible provision. God affirms that the listener's season of giving without visible replenishment is ending, and receiving is now part of obedience, not selfishness. Humanized language recognizes the struggle of internal resistance, guilt, fear, or hesitation to accept blessings after prolonged waiting or sacrifice. God reassures the listener that opening to receive is aligned with purpose and is a natural extension of faithfulness. This shift toward abundance validates the listener's endurance, integrity, and devotion, showing that unseen labor and loyalty have laid the foundation for reward. Receiving is framed as part of a divine cycle, where generosity and alignment with God's will naturally invite provision. The text emphasizes humility and gratitude, reinforcing that accepting blessings does not diminish previous acts of faith, but completes them. Human experience is honored by acknowledging the tension between readiness and hesitation, the delicate balance of expectation and trust. God reassures that provision will flow in ways that reflect the listener's integrity, aligning with their values and spiritual preparation. The section invites openness, encouraging the listener to embrace favor fully, without reservation, and to recognize that divine timing ensures blessings arrive when the heart and spirit are prepared to steward them wisely. A call to carry the truth forward. This section invites the listener to integrate divine insights into daily life, making spiritual understanding a lived experience rather than abstract knowledge. God emphasizes that internalizing truth carries practical responsibility. It shapes choices, words, and actions in alignment with purpose. Human experience is highlighted. Internal wisdom is not meant to remain dormant. It gains power when applied relationally and intentionally. The listener is encouraged to share truth with those who resonate, not as obligation, but as natural extension of authentic living. God affirms that the listener's voice holds influence, rooted in genuine character, shaped by sacrifice, patience, and fidelity. This message reframes spiritual truth as communal, reminding the listener that their actions can guide, encourage, and illuminate paths for others. Humanized attention is given to courage, humility, and attentiveness required to maintain authenticity while influencing others. God reassures that this calling is not isolating. The listener is part of a faithful remnant moving with integrity. By carrying truth forward, the listener embodies divine principles, becomes a channel of influence, and participates actively in purpose-driven transformation. The section encourages confidence, patience, and relational sensitivity, emphasizing that the listener's journey is both personal and communal, and that active engagement with divine wisdom magnifies its impact. Walking into visible favor. Here, God prepares the listener for tangible, outward shifts in circumstances, opportunities, and influence. The emphasis is on visibility that aligns with integrity, ensuring success does not compromise devotion or purpose. Humanized attention is given to potential anxiety about public recognition or sudden change. The text reassures the listener that preparation and inner alignment safeguard against pride or misuse of favor. God frames visible blessings as responsibility, not entitlement, emphasizing that faithfulness shapes the manner and impact of success. The section connects with lived experience, acknowledging the tension between excitement for new opportunities and the need for humility in leadership. Favor is presented as relational and sustainable, arising from consistent alignment with divine principles rather than ambition or manipulation. God reassures that this season of increased visibility, influence, and recognition reflects accumulated dedication, silent work, and integrity preserved during trials. The listener is encouraged to embrace opportunity confidently, knowing that their foundation supports growth and that divine guidance will continue to guard decisions, relationships, and actions. Visibility is thus presented not as superficial reward, but as a natural expression of faithful preparation and readiness for expanded influence. Peace as the guiding assurance. This portion emphasizes peace as the marker of alignment with God's will. Human experience is recognized. When opportunities, influence, or change emerge, anxiety or uncertainty often accompanies progress. God reassures the listener that inner peace will serve as a compass, guiding decisions, providing clarity, and protecting from confusion. Peace is described not as passive calm, but as active discernment, allowing the listener to navigate challenges and opportunities with steadiness and confidence. The section highlights that clarity and understanding will emerge progressively, reinforcing that alignment is a journey rather than a momentary realization. Humanized language honors the listener's past struggles, doubts, and emotional labor, framing peace as a protective, stabilizing force cultivated through prior endurance, integrity, and faithfulness. God encourages reliance on this inner assurance to evaluate decisions, discern direction, and maintain stability amidst change. Peace is presented as a relational confirmation of divine presence, an ongoing guide that strengthens resilience and confidence while protecting the heart. This section reassures the listener that every step forward will be accompanied by divine clarity, reinforcing trust and calm as markers of readiness for the unfolding season. Cherished and never alone. The closing section affirms enduring divine presence and love. God reassures the listener that they are never abandoned, emphasizing care, protection, and guidance throughout every stage of life. Human experience is validated, acknowledging prior struggles, unseen sacrifices, and moments of doubt. God's affirmation instills confidence, belonging, and purpose, reinforcing that the journey ahead is supported and observed. The text presents divine accompaniment as consistent, intimate, and proactive, ensuring the listener feels valued and guided. The ending encourages reflection, gratitude, and continued attentiveness, reminding the listener that spiritual connection remains ongoing, not limited to a single moment of insight. Humanized attention is given to relational depth. The listener is invited to experience love, peace, and favor, not as abstract concepts, but as lived realities shaping daily life and choices. By concluding with reassurance and affirmation, the section establishes a sense of continuity, hope, and readiness, encouraging the listener to walk forward confidently, knowing their path is purposeful and their spiritual foundation is secure. The message closes with empowerment, trust, and a personal invitation to remain attentive to divine guidance as the next phase of life unfolds.